Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News with Big Hairy Chewy. Hello, sir.
Ah! Did you like that one?
Hiya. Is that what the
Yep.
thing is from last night? Hi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hiya.
Doing well. How's your day? Day off
I have become a house potato because it's too hot and humid to go outside. I took the dog for a walk earlier today in the creek, and then I came home, did absolutely nothing. Unproductive. In my lane.
You probably don't want to see tomorrow then. Have you seen the forecast for tomorrow?
A pleasant temperature with no wind.
I actually haven't seen it, but I was told
We're going to roast to death in the shop.
that tomorrow's high in Dunedin is going to be 30.
What?
That's what I got told. Hang on.
I did not approve that.
Yeah, there we go. Well, actually, a few days. Check this out. No, I actually haven't shared my screen yet. Let me share my screen. Yeah, tomorrow's going to be well, I was told 30. Stuff says tomorrow is 29, and then it says Friday is 30, and Saturday is 27. So some warm ones down here.
I'm not built for that, and neither is my little dog.
Your little dog that likes to live in the snow.
Yes, not built for it.
Oh, very good.
All
right.
Just before we crack on to like really important news of the day, right?
Like the price of beer going up. That's one of our stories.
Well, that's also devastating to me personally. This happened.
Elon Musk. Oh, he's gone private.
He's privated his channel, the champion of free speech. He did a meme so bad this afternoon that he slopped his whole process.
What was the meme? Surely you can find the meme online. It'll be a Google image. Someone will have screenshotted it.
I'll see if I can track it down. But basically, he was taking a dig at the US government for not being good with money. And then a good couple of 100,000 people came after him and went, I don't know, man, spending $44 billion on Twitter is probably not good with money. So yeah, I think he got burned so bad he's turned his account off.
Good Lord. I mean, we're going to talk about a particular authoritarian figure in New Zealand becoming authoritarian who is incredibly thin-skinned. But maybe that would be something that is akin to what you've just shown us as well, because some news coming out today about our New Zealand's mayor, we're called Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor, New Zealand's mayor, Wayneus Brown, about what he got tried to do today and had a conversation with the Herald, particularly thin-skinned in that conversation. We'll have a squiz at that as we go through the night.
Hasn't been a good week for that old man, has it?
For Wayneus. No, it is really looking like old man shouts at clouds. It really does feel like that.
I like how efficient he is at getting bad news in both parts of the day, both when I wake up and check the news, and then later on in the afternoon when I check the news. There's something new and terrible that he's done. It's awesome. And
let's apologize already to people out there. Ava, we apologize to you. Ava says, kia ora koutou. Oh, dang, this is going to F up my algorithm again. Took me forever to banish MrBeast after I banned my kids from my account. Yeah, we're going to talk about MrBeast tonight. I follow MrBeast. I watch his videos because they fascinate me.
I'm going to put my old man hat on here and go, I don't know who this man is. Why is he MrBeast?
You must have heard of him, though, eh? You know who he is?
I have.
I mean, he's the biggest. He is the biggest YouTuber. 133 million subscribers. So he is literally the biggest thing on YouTube. Yeah, he's a 24-year-old from the Midwest of America who gives money away. That's basically his thing, and does crazy videos worth $3 million. Like he's done a last one to take their hands off $1 million cash, wins $1 million cash, and he gives people cars, and he gives people houses, and he did a video last weekend, and I actually watched it after it popped up on my feed. I saw it. It's only 8 minutes long, where he's curing No, that's wrong, because that's what the Twitterverse is saying. He's not curing. He's paying for a very simple operation to give 1,000 people their eyesight back. And he is being criticized vehemently by a certain sector of the Twitterverse, Chewy, that may resonate with you.
Well, this
because a certain sector of
immediately
them
makes sense to me.
Yeah, a certain sector of them had a crack at us last year for not agreeing with us. So we'll get to that as we go through, not to give away all our things. But the other thing I wanted to share with the far known, if you follow me on Twitter, you might already know this. I did my first spot on on the panel on Today FM today. So every week, every Wednesday on Lloyd Boyer's show, I'm going on to do a panel where they ask us hard-hitting questions, and we have about 8 seconds to answer them. And you know that is not kind of my style. My style is meandering chit-chat for 25 minutes, then going, oh, 2 minutes of gold. But in this instance, it was like, you got 90 seconds, let's explain it. And I thought I'd play you a bit. And those of you who watch us and know us know that this rant of mine is pretty, you'll have heard this before, but one of the questions for today was, with what's happening with Wayness Brown, is it that businessmen aren't actually that good at being politicians? You already know, people already know my kind of.
Well, this is very off book for us. We're known to be very pro business.
Yeah, for sure. But I didn't script it, but I wrote out notes because I knew me. I'd go, well, that's an interesting question. Let's think about that from several different angles. Like, right, thanks for your time. So I scripted something where I wrote some ideas down to make sure I stuck the topic. But then what happened was Lloyd was about to throw to the other person who I was on with, and then I came back in and I've come up with a new little slogan, and I think it's a slogan that if we try to get it going, it could actually stick. So let's have a listen to this. This is weird because it's me talking about me, but you'll get the idea. And then if you want to tune in every Wednesday from now on, you'll be able to.
Let's talk about Wayne Brown and people from outside of Auckland. Actually, everyone, even people inside of Auckland, are probably sick and tired of us talking about Wayne Brown. But does Wayne Brown and the way he's handled this flooding crisis, does it show that being good at business doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at politics? Pat, will go with you.
This is a bed bug of mine. It's a stupid trope that the right uses, that because someone's good at business, they'd be good politicians. Because the idea of business is to make a profit, full stop, to return a profit to themselves or shareholders, and that's not how local or central government works. If it was, we'd say goodbye to all those services that aren't profit-driven, but service and community-driven, like libraries, fire, A&E rooms. It's just a nonsense argument. I'm not saying that someone who has been successful at business can't be a good politician, but it's not that trump card to be played on a CV to point to why someone would be a good politician. If they did want to have a trump card, maybe something that would be better is if they'd, for example, run a not-for-profit or an NGO. Because the CEO of an NGO has all those same responsibilities as a business person, staff, budgets, ROIs, but they're not driven to make profits. And that's what a business is for, which is why it's a ridiculous thing that the right use so often to say they're going to be a good politician.
I guess there are exceptions to the rules. Like John Key was an exception to the rule, great businessman, and he was a political phenomenon in many ways. Louise,
but I think there's a question. I think there's a question around what you mean by businessman. I mean, I think when you hear in politics people talking about businessmen, they think about the car yard owner or the person who started up the business and off their bootstraps and they drove it all the way through. They don't think about the CEO running someone else's company in a Fortune 500 type way. I don't think Mr. Luxon, with due respect, is a businessman. He's a board member, but he's claiming businessman because that's what the right do.
What do you think? He's not a businessman, he's a board member. That was off the cuff. That was off the dome, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Calling John Key a businessman, he was a trader.
Yeah.
The same sort of thing. On a board member, yes. When I think of a businessman, I think of someone, as you said, who has built up a business.
Yeah.
From their own idea and from the ground up, or has taken a business and expanded it. And I want the things that I want. If someone's going to say I'm a businessman, put me in the politics. I want to know that he's managed his money well. I want to see that he's grown the business, and I want to see that his employees are happy. Board members do none of that.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like we've said this for a long time here. Everyone who participates in the show. This is not just about me saying this, but people like Luxon and people like, and at some level, people like Wayne Brown. Although he is an engineer and he ran an engineering business, so credit's due for that. He is these people who claim to be businessmen and be on the right and be I'm a businessman. I've run a business, so therefore I'm a good politician. Are often CEOs of Air New Zealand. That you're not a businessman. You're a board member. Like, it's a very different scenario when we talk about business in the political sense as a positive thing. It's not the person who gets brought back from Canada on a $4 million salary into New Zealand to sit at the top table to run a business. That's not what a businessman is, right? A businessman that we think about in the political sense is absolutely that guy who started up a business. He invented a product. He imported a product. He bootstrapped it. He got it going. It grew. He employed staff. It grew some more. He had 2 outlets. That's when we hear about a businessman, that's what we think of when it comes to politics. But all these people who are saying, I've been in business, most of them, while technically they may be associated with business, they aren't businessmen or women, business people. They are people who have sat on boards or people who have been imported into someone else's business to run somewhere in management, but they're not the people. It's not their business more often than not. It's someone else's, or it belongs to shareholders, and they work the day-to-day scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that comes into that, and it might be a side issue, but it would be great if the experience of running a business, like you talk about Wayne Brown as an engineering business, man was born in 1956. How relevant is his business acumen of running a business at that point?
Yeah.
But the man's a fossil. But yes, it has nothing to do with government. Nothing at all. The only relevance that they could bring in is, I know how government makes business easier or harder. But the caveat that this guy's from business, therefore he's going to be good for business, is just bullshit.
Look, and speaking of that, and I was going to use this for another part of the conversation when we talk about Wayne Brown, but I'll bring it up now. Speaking of, him being an engineer, I put a tweet out today, and I'll just bring it up so people, I'm sure everyone's seen it because everyone must follow me, but people who haven't, to bring it up, it's very clearly here. The government you elect is the government you deserve. A quote attributed to Thomas Jefferson. A quote attributed to Wayne Brown. This is part of what I'm bringing to the mayoralty. I mean, I'm an engineer. We lack empathy. In a 2022 Stuff interview.
Jesus, so we know that
the government you elect is the government you deserve. People in Auckland, you deserve Wayne Brown, who actively acknowledges himself that he has no empathy. And in a time where empathy would be one of the most important things to get through this current moment, welcome to your world. You put him in there?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on this with Afiso Collins last night about what a shambles the local government elections are, especially in Auckland. Privatized. Heaps of people didn't get voting papers until after the election. They ran out of voting papers in the booth. Like, we know that those sort of things aren't going to affect the wealthier suburbs. They never do. So, I mean, someone was sitting with their thumb on the scales right from the get-go.
Yep.
But I mean, I've seen lots of conversations floating around today about how do you get rid of a mayor.
You kind of can't. We're going to get to that.
He's got to resign.
Yeah, we're going to get to that because this is part of the communication with him today. So let's rip into that now. But firstly, you've been marking text messages that are flooding in. Is there anything you want to put up before we start talking about Wayne Brown?
No.
The mouth-breathing mayor? All right. So let's start with this one. There's 2 things I want to talk about with Wayne. And the first one is, remember this guy who several weeks ago basically said, well, everyone's entitled to an opinion when he stopped Auckland Airport from trading. I was just sharing an opinion. That's okay. I'm allowed to do that. Now is making it clear that others aren't allowed to share not only their opinions, but they're not allowed to share their facts either. Leaked emails reveal Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown trying to gag councillors amid flood response. Leaked emails obtained by staff reveal Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown has tried to silence fellow councillors and leave him to be the one voice, that's a quote, one voice on the city's flooding matters. Already under fire for poor communication, Brown is now facing criticism from his peers after trying to silence them, with one veteran councillor slamming Brown's email to 170 local politicians as an affront to all elected members. Staff can reveal Brown's email amounted to telling elected officials to step back and allow only himself and Deputy Mayor Desley Simpson to do the talking. I will take care of the big picture, Brown emailed to all councillors and local board members said. On the same day, he was reported to calling the media drongos and that he didn't need to talk to anybody in the media. So on one level, he's saying, and look, to be honest with you, if he was a world-class golden communicator getting all the information out there, it's a bit like when Jacinda said, we can be your single source of truth. Now, it wasn't a particularly good use of words because it's turned into a conspiracy theory. What she was saying is, come to our briefings first. We'll give you all the latest information straight away. If he was capable of having briefings with all the latest information, there's nothing wrong with the idea of let's drive it through here. But the same man who is not wanting to talk to the media and his yelling at the media for fucking him over, which we'll get to next, is the same guy telling others to zip it and not say a word. Seems a bit fishy to me, Chewy.
Yeah, and I think when he's trying to crack down on councillors for putting information out into their own communities, the communities that elected them, they were doing that job because no one else was. Like, it was an information vacuum that they were trying to fill, and now they're getting slapped down for it. Like, it's bizarre. Like, if the mayor's office wants to get out there and do that role, then just do it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to tell someone to stop doing it. Just do it.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And it does come from we're going to get to his thin-skinnedness next, but a thin-skinned man who obviously is concerned about others painting the narrative negatively against him.
I know why he is thin-skinned, by the way.
Why is that?
Eventually, when you get so old, you start to run out of skin, which I think is where he's at. Tissue thin.
Something else just to look at from stuff.co.nz, same article. Do you think Wayne Brown is doing a good job as Auckland Mayor? 8% yeah, 92% no.
Big off.
Nearly 19,000 votes. 92%. 92% no.
I want to talk to the 8%. I want to see what their situation is.
They'll be the die-hard. Matthew Hooton is all his mailing list. That's probably who it is. All right, let's have a look at the next part of the story as well, because this was fascinating. And we were talking last night about the prepared statement kind of went well, and then he starts talking off the cuff, and it turns to custard. And people like Matthew Hooton are probably like going,
just shut it down.
Just now stop. And
like that old comedy thing
of the room.
The shepherd's crook.
Yeah, the shepherd's crook, yeah.
And yank him off.
Because it seems that Mayor Wayne Brown voluntarily phoned the New Zealand Herald and voluntarily spent 30 minutes on the phone with them, making himself look like the Muppet that he really is. Auckland floods. Mayor Wayne Brown's 30-minute phone call with the Herald by David Fisher. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll give you some of the nutshells. Don't fuck me over, says Wayne Brown, Mayor of Auckland, after about 30 minutes of a frank discussion with the Herald. This is important. Brown rang the Herald on Monday night after a request for comment about his message to his tennis group that he couldn't play on Sunday because he had to, quote, deal with the media drongos over the flooding tomorrow. This is what he said. Now, this is coming back to you about getting rid of the mayor. I'm the mayor for 3 years. You can't do anything about that, he said. No one else in New Zealand is going to get 180,000 votes. That was my mandate. Last month, the guy in Hamilton got into Parliament with 6,000 votes, referring to Nationals Tama Potaka in the Hamilton West by-election. I got 30 votes for every one of those. Here's the thin skinners. Now, when he says that's his mandate, look, it's the democratic process. Fair enough. He got elected. He won. But 180,000 votes is pretty close to 10% of the population of Auckland. So that's you could argue, but you could argue, I mean, it's a mandate based on who voted, but you could argue that 10% of a population saying yes to you doesn't give you much of a mandate. Some may argue that it doesn't give you a mandate at all. Crumbs, what did I just do there? All right. Actually, the story goes on.
That's pretty close to that stuff poll.
That's true, actually. The poll goes on. I mean, sorry, the article goes on. The call to the Herald was to a journalist who has dealt with Brown for 20 years. I'm only talking to you because you're a mate, he said a few times during the call. When it was pointed out to both the mayor and journalists had jobs to do, he said, if you've got a job to do a job worth doing, whatever the fuck that means. There will be other stories coming, he said. And if you do me over, they won't be coming to you. In other words, he's trying to influence a journalist by offering him exclusivity.
Basically a bribe.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to offer him exclusivity. When told there are no deals, he said, "Everyone's a trader, mate." Meaning, yes, basically everyone has his price. He conceded you can write about this conversation. You can, as long as it's balanced. What would you write? Mere bleats? Take the story as you like. I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm in. That's what they don't understand.
Wow.
Last part for you, and this is much more. You need to go to the Hero Behind the Paywall to check it out. But the last part, Brown also complained about, and this is the thin skin, right? Brown also complained about the coverage the All Blacks received on Monday. You know, that kind of biggest brand New Zealand has. So, like, if we want world attention, if Lord walked into a thing, that would be shown around the world, which would be good for New Zealand. So the same with the All Blacks on some level, right? The All Blacks show up. It's really good. So in fact, I read something today that said he seems to have a problem with being the face of Auckland. I mean, that face, I don't know if you'd want that to be representing your city, but he seems to have a problem with it, not understanding that the mayor on some level is the face of Auckland. And he doesn't, he wants to be mayor, but he doesn't want to be the face of Auckland. But when other people step up to help, he doesn't want them to be either. So that's the thin skinness. So let me read this for you, and then we're done with this article. Brown complained about the coverage the All Blacks received on Monday for, quote, just unloading a few boxes, end quote. When they and Auckland Blues members turned up to the Mangere Memorial Hall on Monday, the media, he said, would, quote, fly through the blitz to kiss their ass. In contrast, he asks, where was the coverage of his visits? Where was the coverage of my visits, which were generally unannounced, says the article, to relief centres and to view damage? Where was the coverage of what he had done to assist Mangere? They, the media, they just can't get over the fact the person they loved, I beat him by a mile, talking about Efeso Collins. So there you go. And then, of course, what I was going to do is show this to you now. People of Auckland, Thomas Jefferson said the government you elect is the government you deserve. What Wayne Brown said was that he lacks empathy. You deserve it, Auckland. Sorry, I don't mean to be a wanker to Aucklanders, but that's a truism. America deserved Trump. You know, Auckland deserves him. There you go.
Oh,
to you, Chewy.
That's so rough. I get it, but God, it doesn't feel nice to hear it, though, does it?
Nah.
No, yeah. I mean, I was reading through like what needs to happen to get rid of a mayor, and it's basically a resignation. So enough public pressure, or his council going absolutely maverick on him, or a government minister can sack him. Now that's
and now there's a minister for Auckland. So
well, I read that and put those two things together, and I was like, appointing a minister for Auckland, that's a shot across the bow. That's like, we have someone ready to replace you if you don't get your shit together. But what a poisoned cup that is. If Labour come in and replace the democratically elected mayor, that's just a hand grenade that's going to go off in their hand.
Yeah.
In the run up to the election, they'll never do it.
Not prior to the election.
No, not at all. But yeah, it's just. I mean, are people going to learn the lesson that local politics actually does matter if someone like this is going to get in?
Well,
God, imagine if it had been Leo Malloy.
Oh God, I saw Leo Malloy doing a piece about on Twitter today, a piece about the Sam Smith video, to which actually one of our local boys down here actually shot a bow across his, and I didn't know the news that he was talking about. But if you want to see it, go to Leo Malloy's Twitter feed and look up Dudley Benson's comment on there. I just have to say one thing, because one of the greatest comments, one of the greatest rim shots, comedy gag bits that has ever come in has just come in after I talked about the Blitz. Because what have we got here? Finn Sark saying the Blitz, something I'm sure he remembers. Mwah. Gold.
I mean, he is literally a boomer. That's what you just keep coming back to it. He's Mr. Burns.
Excellent.
And I mean, I had an interaction with a boomer today, actually, when I went to the supermarket. A guy was, he'd finished unloading his trolley at his car, and then he just turned around and just basically pushed the trolley into an empty car parking space and walked away. Now, he had a trolley bay behind him and a trolley bay in his eye line, and he chose no. And so I went over there and I grabbed the trolley and I was like, right there. And he goes, I don't have time. I was like, yeah, I know you don't have time. You'll be dead soon.
Did you say that? Did you actually say that to him?
Yeah, he
car
stopped dead in
returns
his
all-
tracks and then got in his car and left. But yeah,
Hey, can I pause you there? Let me pause you there for a
returns all over
second. Do you know who Cartnarks are?
no. Sounds like you stopped your
Yeah,
time.
cart returns all
YouTube channel called Cartnarks, right? What this guy does,
yes.
he goes into car parks in America
over the place right
and
here.
he embarrasses people who haven't put their carts back.
I narc out people that don't get their car.
Oh, let's just do this. See what happens? You just play things off YouTube.
Yeah.
So this is what he does, and he goes and he embarrasses them to putting their carts back. And if they don't do it, he ends up putting stickers on their
I love him.
on their things, and so that's what he does. I was trying to find a short one for you. There's a little short one. What's this going to be?
He just frisbees them onto the car, doesn't he?
Oh, whip, skip, whip, whip,
That's his alarm. That's his
Cart
alarm.
narcs. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we narc on you? Oh, your wind's blowing the cart right into your own car, actually, sir. Look at that. His cart actually hit his own car, albeit very lightly. Pardon
This
me,
dude's
sir.
gonna get shot.
He does a lot of
You're
that.
literally demonstrating the problem of leaving your cart out when the cart returns right there and right there.
Yeah, that was pretty.
So
much
cart
me.
narcs here. Hello.
And so he goes on and on and on, and he gives them stickers, bumper stickers, and he also gets into quite a lot of confrontations with them. I think there's probably one coming here.
Oh yeah, I did today. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Let me point you to the right cart direction. It's right over there.
Yeah, who do you work for?
Work for the cart narcs. Look at your cart right now rolling away with the wind. That's what can happen. I'm going to make a heroic move and save it for you, sir. Actually, it's a duty I do for myself. You want to take it from here, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, how long?
There you go. He got a win there. So so it just made me. I know this is the first tangent for the night. So if people want to look it up, it's Cartnarks on YouTube, and they're pretty hilarious. Look, we're going to move on, but let's go to some of the messages that have been coming in about the stuff we've talked about so far, so we don't get too far behind. Rob says businessmen aren't even good at business most of the time, let alone politics. V says Key was never a businessman; he was a currency trader, which is sort of what you guys said that at the same time, I think. Politically, they have the repeated reference to the bootstrap metaphor. The whole point of the pull up by the bootstrap is that it's physically impossible as they're below you. And I legit think people forget that.
Oh, I love when people completely lose the meaning of a saying. You're absolutely right.
Peter says it's like saying billionaires are qualified to extol on all topics with gravitas just because they're wealthy. Bullshit, says Peter. Carl says when they say I'm a businessman, they want you to imagine them as captains of industry, but for those people are usually terrible as employers and people. They only want to make it they want to make more money for themselves. Yeah, well, that's what we were saying. We're saying, we've said it before, you know this, is that it's about making profit, and that's not about politics. Ava says bullshit. My partner is an engineer. He's a bloody great leader precisely because he is empathetic and he enters every interaction without his own ego getting in the way. There you go. Very good. Matthew Hooton says, I understand Matthew Hooton isn't working for Brown anymore. Really? Maybe we'll Google it.
I hadn't dig into that. But if he's cut him loose, that's going to be really interesting.
Yep. As thin-skinned as Trump. And finally, of the New Zealand Herald article, Rex says, the crazy thing is he just spoke to a friendly journalist and said that to him. This is ham-fisted to the point of parody. So there you go, a bunch of things. And a huge thanks to Kookie for the super chat. Kookie has decided if you're ever late to the show, there is a late entry fee of $5. So there you go. Now, speaking of the show, thank you, Kookie. We appreciate that. Speaking of the show, we are not going to be here tomorrow night. We've talked about this a couple of nights in a row, but just so you guys all know, it's my partner's birthday, and I'm going to take her out for dinner. And I believe Chewy's partner is heading off for a wee while, and it's the last night before she goes away. So Chewy's going to spend some time with his partner. So tomorrow's family night for BHN, and we decided that our families are going to take priority tomorrow night. So we won't be here. Now, there is a small chance, and I'll say small because I haven't talked to you about this yet, that we might come back on Friday night and do something. But if we don't, we don't, and we'll see you on Monday. So this is the last one potentially for this week, because it's BHN Family Night. We would encourage you tomorrow night to spend time with your family, your significant other, or Mrs. Palmer. Is that right? No.
Your own partners, not ours.
Yes.
Because
No, not our
we're
partners.
taking our partners out.
Although we're both in Dunedin, we're taking them out. Are we going to the same place? Should we double date?
Oh, that'd be awkward.
Well, it sounds icky now that you've said it that way. That would be awkward. All right. Okay, guys. MrBeast. I like MrBeast. And yes, I play Fortnite. I am indeed a 9-year-old boy in another life. So this is what MrBeast did. And we're not actually going to play the video, because if we play the video, we will instantly get taken off YouTube because he's daddy. MrBeast is.
Oh, God,
is
that's an
YouTube
eye.
daddy.
I just worked
That's an
out what that is. Yeah.
So this is an eye, right?
Oh, I don't
and
like
that's
it.
a cataract for the eye, over the eye. And I'm going to play about 5 seconds of this. Hopefully this won't get us taken off. This is the operation. And it's as simple as this to give people their eyesight back. What they do is they suck out the cataract. I'm just actually going to pause it. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'm not never going to play this, but you see this here, True, the circular bit here. This is them then injecting a lens. And that's it.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's it. They suck out the cataract, they inject the lens. It takes 10 minutes, and when it's over, they look like this. So MrBeast did this video, which we're not going to play. You can go look it up yourself. It's only 8 minutes long, where he paid for, when I say he, his company, his product, his YouTube channel paid for 1,000 people, not just in America, but in the third world as well, to actually receive this procedure and give them their eyesight back. The thing that's been going on Twitter recently, we'll actually have a look at Twitter, is he's now being accused of exploiting poor people for views in his latest video, paying for the surgeries of 1,000 blind people. He's finally responded. On Saturday, YouTuber MrBeast uploaded a video where he helped to cure blindness in 1,000 people. I haven't really marked you this. We'll just go down and have a look. Titled 1,000 Blind People See for the First Time. The emotional video. In fact, you know what? I teared up. I watched and I was like, oh my God, this is what money is really for. I wasn't quite that emotional. It's comedic purpose, a bit there, a little bit of I'm self-deprecating, but no, there was no question. Yeah, Fred Hollow says over that it was an emotional thing to watch these people, like fathers seeing their sons properly for the first time in 20 years, and all that kind of stuff. The other thing Jimmy is MrBeast, is because they make so much money. He's got 133 million subscribers. This video itself has already been seen 70 million times or something. Is they give away a shit ton of money. So even in this video, where they're giving all the people these eyesights back, every now and again, he'd also hand someone a briefcase with $10,000 cash in it. He gave some kid $50,000 for his college tuition as a part of this. And he's being hauled over the coals by a certain sector of the Twitterverse for ableism, because there are literally people saying things like, things like, oh, so now you have to cure a disability? That's so ableist. There are real people in the world who think this way. Real people. Sorry, Chu, you jump in while I look for some more stuff.
I'm confused as all hell about that. I would imagine that he's asked people if they want to be not blind anymore, and they're like, boy, howdy do I.
As explained by an orthodontologist in the video, half of the blindness in the world, half, is curable by this 10-minute surgery, which sadly remains inaccessible and unaffordable for many. Half. What's more, the popular YouTuber, known for his pretty elaborate videos, also gave away an array of grand prizes, including $10,000 to select number of patients, $50,000 to this student here, and he gave some kid a Tesla as well, because they're like, I just want my eyesight back so I can drive. And then you saw him 3 months later learning to drive, and Jimmy said, oh, here, you can have this Tesla. So this is what this 24-year-old does. It's unbelievable to watch. So he's responded to all of this, or I say all of this, well, let's be honest, a sector of society criticizing him. Here, hate MrBeast in a way has made it normal to capitalize off philanthropy. So this person hates MrBeast because MrBeast has made money off philanthropy where in philanthropy, he needs to have money to do philanthropy. So he's got to make the money first to
Hang
do
on,
the
I'm gonna write this
philanthropy.
down. I've got to work it out. What?
And that's the square root of pi
Right,
cubed. Might get you to that answer. Another one here, it feels performative. Using your money that way is good, but the way he publicizes it feels very performative. He built a brand off a feel-good content, so it's hard to see any of this is sincere.
I could kind of get partly there with that. It's like people filming themselves giving homeless people meals. I don't like those videos of like just give them meals. You don't need to tell me about it. But this is a whole nother scale.
Yeah, but if you're giving one person a meal and making yourself look, that's a different, as you say, scale from 1,000 people. And the other thing that we'll do, he also, by the way, he also gave then $100,000 donation to the people doing the eye stuff on top of that as well, so they could then go and keep doing it. That was at the end of the video, so it's not just what he's doing there. I get that you can put someone sort of in harm's way for your own benefit, but the thing about this, and I think Chewy, I don't want to compare it to what we went through, but on some level, is if you know who the people are and what they're about, you know that's not what they're doing. You need to actually make a leap to then come to that conclusion. Now, he's been doing this. He tells a story, Jimmy does, about the first kind of giveaway he did. He went in, he monetized a video with a company, and they said, what are you going to do with it? It was something like they were going to give him $5,000. And he said, if you give me 10, I'll walk out the front door and give it away. And they said, no, you won't. He said, give me 10. They gave him 10, and he walked out and made his first big giveaway video. So that's the brand this kid does. And now it's not just giving away things and smashing things. It's giving people their eyesight back. It's like, and people are complaining about it.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'm going to mention here, because I think we've mentioned this in the past, right? Is this a genuine pushback against what he's doing? Or is this 15 Twitter people who have just got out and hammered a tweet, and then BuzzFeed have picked it up and spun up a whole article about it?
There are blue check.
So they can get their clicks.
I know it's not the same as it used to be, the blue check mark, but there are plenty of blue check marks involved in this, and it is at least trending. It has to be something to be trending. So MrBeast also has called people out on this. He says, I don't understand why curable blindness is a thing. Why don't governments step in and help? Even if you're thinking purely from a financial standpoint, it's hard to see how they don't return on investment on taxes from people being able to work again. In other words, if this is a $2,000 operation, I don't know what it is, let's say it's a $2,000 operation, how long is it going to take for a government to get back that $2,000 in taxes from people who can now see? So he's actually calling out the whole system, and there's a clip I'm going to play for you shortly. That'll explain that a bit better than I just did. Talking about what he does, it didn't raise awareness. He says it gets tons of people talking this, and this is what we're doing now. Also, what profits? The average MrBeast video lost $1.5 million last year. Twitter, so this is MrBeast again. Twitter saying rich people should help others with their money. Me, okay, I'll use my money to help people, and I promise to give all of my money away before I die. Every single penny. Twitter, MrBeast bad, and that's sort of what there is. And this is one of the best comments. Twitter is. There was a comment about 1,000. I think I put it up here. I actually brought up a Twitter feed with his name in it. Yeah, I looked up his Google, and so it's there's a lot going on. And there was someone talking about curing 1,000 people on Twitter. But I've lost that now. Let me play this clip here. This is from another YouTuber. So MrBeast generously paid for 1,000 people's curable blindness surgeries. And I saw a lot of people say that they couldn't put their finger on why it made them uncomfortable. Here's the reason why. Now, stick with me, because this guy doesn't go down the rabbit hole of MrBeast bad. He actually talks to the issue, and it's kind of along the point of what MrBeast was saying before about government getting involved.
You've probably heard by now that MrBeast has paid for the curable blindness surgeries of 1,000 people. This would be a super heartwarming story, except for the fact that it's kinda not. What MrBeast did was incredibly generous, but it's also an indication of just how bad the United States healthcare infrastructure is.
That's the
The fact that the only way these people could get their blindness cured was through the altruism of a 24-year-old YouTuber who at this point and at my age, I'm being forced to learn about. I'm not saying that you should reject the heartwarming feeling you get when you consume these kind of stories, but I am saying it's worth considering the societal conditions that created the need for these stories in the first place. For For example,
There you go. That'll do. So in other words, basically what he's saying is everyone's piling on board MrBeast, and he's wondering if what MrBeast is ultimately doing is showing systemic issues. And so rather than piling on, and look, I'm sorry, I don't buy that. And I see some people in the chat are talking about this. I don't buy well, if only he'd done it privately. This is a YouTuber who has a YouTube channel who's able to do philanthropic things because of the money he makes off his videos. So to be kind of like, well, just give it away and don't film any of it. It's like, it's okay. So he does that. And then there's no more philanthropy after that, because that's how he pays for his work that he does curing people's blindness, is by showing the videos. So you can't have it both ways. You can have the videos that earn the money to enable him to do good things, or you can have the money with no more videos, earning no more income to do more good things. I know which I would prefer. But I guess what this YouTuber is saying is, and what MrBeast himself said, we should prefer none of it, because this shouldn't be an issue. A 10-minute operation to cure blindness shouldn't be an issue.
It's a real. I'm loving the conversation in the chat at the moment, because every time I think I've got my point of view nailed down, someone comes in and fucking knocks my legs out. I mean, there's lots of comments about him living quite a luxurious lifestyle and that sort of thing, and it is videos with people's, not necessarily this one, but I've seen little clips of him putting people in a circle for like 3 days until there's one left. And, it does seem to be capitalizing on people's desperation in those. I think I saw a clip of one of those and kind of went, not for me.
Well, but what he does with that is it often is younger people. I mean, if it was like all homeless 45-year-olds and, or drug addicts and, a bunch of 17-year-olds doing that, I don't think it's quite the same thing. And I've got to say, I've watched a few long form interviews with Jimmy, and he doesn't live a luxurious lifestyle as he could. He drives a pretty average car. He lives in a pretty normal house. They say he's going to be the first YouTube billionaire, and he does not live like a billionaire. He might live like a millionaire, fine, but he does not live the kind of life that the money that he makes could afford. So I'm not necessarily defending him, but I think it's fair to be accurate and go, yeah, he's got money, and yeah, he lives comfortably, but he's not like let's all get grills and drive LaFerraris and, live in a $26 million mansion. That's which he could be.
Maybe that's the next video. He's going to cure people's blindness and give them grills. I mean, like, I've been involved with radio promotions where it's like, you can win this car if you don't take your hand off it, sort of thing. It's basically that writ large, and it's always people that are like, oh, I could never afford a new car. This is my situation. This is my sad story. All of this sort of stuff. It's the same thing for the YouTube generation. And I think I'm kind of in the boat of like, okay, if he's pulling in all of these sponsorship dollars and all of this money from monetization, and he's got this sort of following online, he is hopefully materially changing people's lives. It's hard to pile on it. Like
he runs for what do you call it, where you go and get food if you can't afford to get food? I was gonna say soup kitchens, not soup kitchens, but like food storage places. If you don't have any money, you can go and get a box of groceries. He runs 4 of those off the money that he does with it. And that's the other thing. There's a lot of stuff that they do that they don't show. I'm sounding like an advocate for MrBeast. I think that people are pathetic. And I think that people are like, it feels a little bit to me like, why can you do that? Why should you be able to do that? It's like, well, he can do that because he's been doing YouTube for 10 years, and he's the biggest YouTuber in the world, and he makes a huge amount of money off it. And from that, he launches a bunch of brands as well. And all of the money from the brands that he's launched go into his video. He doesn't take any salary or money from it. I really think that this is not the guy for people to die on the hill saying he's an ableist. Or this is not the guy to basically say he needs to, he's living off the pain of other people. Not this guy. This is not the guy. There are people, I'm not saying it's not a real thing, but this is not the guy. Yep, I agree with you, Chewy. There's going to be some people who are desperate for 10 grand, so they do crazy things. But in general, this is not the guy.
Yeah, if we get back to the whole crux of why this has spiraled, it's people using the term ableist.
Yeah, that was just one of the themes going through.
And I've seen people talk about ableism and that sort of thing. Why should we consider that something like autism is something to be cured, you know, when, you know, it isn't. But yeah, when it's curable blindness, I mean, there's people in the chat talking about the Fred Hollows Foundation that's been curing cataracts in the Pacific for decades.
Oh, that Fred
now.
Hollows, those Fred Hollows guys, man, fuck them. Curing blindness in the Pacific. How dare you? How dare you say that someone
If
living in
only
Vanuatu
YouTube
needs
was
to have their
around.
eyes?
YouTube wasn't around then for him to monetize it. He's probably
But isn't
missed
that?
a
I
trick
know
there.
I was being incredibly facetious here, but isn't that the point? Because some YouTuber in America has done it, and he hasn't got the money or the credence behind him that a Fred Hollows does. People are fucking jumping up and down. I bet you if Fred Hollows was around still, I'm pretty sure he's not, is he? He'd be like, oh my god, this person's done something amazing, not just for these people, but for the rest of the world to find out that this is actually a really easy thing to get cured. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the thing I was going to say about your autism comment. I agree with you that it's not something that needs to be healed, cured. However, if someone with autism wanted to be cured and they could, that's okay as well. You're not a better person. You're not more moral. You're not a better member of society if you have your disability healed. But I guarantee you, most people who are in a wheelchair and paralyzed from the waist down, if they could get a little injection or a 10 minutes to get their legs back, probably would. So can we just fucking get off the high horse about defending a bunch of people who likely, not guaranteed, but likely, if they were in that scenario, would go, oh yeah, I'd like to see my kids again. Could you fix my eyes? Or, oh yeah, I'd like to actually be able to walk again my daughter down the aisle. Could you fix my broken spine? You know, it's like, no one's saying you're a better person if you are fully able versus disabled, but that doesn't mean that ableism is leave disabled people alone. They're okay with the way they are. Yeah, they are okay the way they are. But that doesn't.
There's
that
an
doesn't mean you can't
honourable
be.
part
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't.
suffering.
If there's a way to help that person in that disability, it doesn't mean it's because I guess the flip side of that is how fucking dare you be in a wheelchair? How ableist is that? What? Are you suggesting that people who have disabilities need wheels? Of course not. Just let them drag themselves along the ground. The extreme of that same logic would be there. I'm not into it. Not for me.
No, wow. That's when I saw that it was something to do with the YouTuber, I did not expect this conversation to spiral and spread as much as it has. We've really kicked over again here.
So let me ask you this, right? Let's just stay on this ableism thing just for a second. I'm just trying to think of the name of the YouTuber because it's Jerry Rig Everything. Do you know Jerry Rig Everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I've podcasted with Jerry. It's not his name, but that's what we go with. So Jerry Rig Everything has started up a new company.
When I first got my silver play button for,
let's just do that. I've podcasted with Jerry. He started up a company, right? So this is Jerry Rig Everything, and his wife is disabled. She's is it paraplegic for the waist down? Yeah, paraplegic. She had a horse riding accident. So that's his wife there. And that's him. And they started up a company because he built her an off-road wheelchair. And they realized he's basically a bit of a novice engineer. And so what he's done is he's gone and designed this chair, and now they are manufacturing them and selling them. They're much cheaper than they're about $2,500 or something. I think right there, look there, $2,500, and your average off-road wheelchair is like 10. So they're much cheaper, yet he's a YouTuber who is now have a business selling product to disabled people, and they're not making any profit on it. How is this any different from what Jimmy just did? Because he's got a video there with a little disabled child in it. This video that he plays has had 355,000 views. That's worth about $800 US. This video right here. Is he as bad? Of course not. It's just nonsense. This guy has used his reach and his outreach and all that kind of stuff just to help people into something that they couldn't have before, and now they can. What's the problem? What's the problem? It's because it's MrBeast. You know, it's when it's the biggest of the big, they get different credibility. No, I've never heard a critical word about Jerry, and there shouldn't be one.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of tall poppy.
I mean, you know, look, this kid and what he did at the end of this video was he gave this kid was a friend of theirs, and that's his wife on the back one on the adult version. They made some kid ones, which is the one in the front. And at the end of this video, he said to the kid, "Oh, you can have it." You know, so he gives it to him. So
that's so cool.
And it's made with bike parts, and all the bike parts are easily replaceable. So in other words, once you've got it, like the wheels have to be replaced, they're just bike wheels, and they do that on purpose, so it makes them easy to repair, and you can just do it at your bike shop. Don't have to come back and make money from the service. It's not a Tesla. It has to go to a Tesla repairman. You know, that's what it is. I mean, look, could we go one step further? I know I'm on a rant now, and I'm not sure why. Could we go one step further? You know, Elon Musk is selling electric cars, and the reason he started doing that was to save the environment. Is that not kind of the same thing? How dare you make money off altruism by saving the environment? How dare you? What are you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, where does this line get drawn?
Now we're talking about Elon as a philanthropist.
Well, no, I'm just saying at the start. I did say at the start.
No, I don't think he was ever there for the start. I don't think it was about saving the money at all.
At the start of him. Yeah, he released his patents to let other car manufacturers use it and catch up with them. So there is an element at the start when he took over Tesla of altruism, and there was an element at the start.
But are we talking about the same thing? Is that something that gets people's attention, and that is worth more to the business as a whole than what he's actually doing? Oh, we'll give the patents for some old tech. We're moving on anyway. This costs us literally nothing. But I mean, I think if you turn around and look at Elon and go, he's only got the Earth's best interests in heart, that doesn't stand up.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I just, you know, I understanding how the system works and having seen it work a little bit with pylons and that kind of stuff, it just feels like the pylon on some level, and you're probably fair in asking the question, how much, Chewy, but enough to be creating news stories around the world, and enough to be getting, you know, commentators to commentate. I'm not talking about us, but like proper commentators. That this is not the guy to make these claims at. You know, he makes money. He makes tons of money. He makes a shit ton of money, and he gives it all away. Yes, he lives comfortably, but he doesn't live like a normal 24-year-old with access to hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not the guy. I think I'll leave that there, and you know, maybe the ableism conversation we can pick up on in another day or another show. Because there is one more thing we're going to talk about. And that was a clip from this morning on the breakfast show with Christopher Luxon talking about what we talked about last night to do with schools being shut. Now, the reason I wanted to show this, it's a shortish clip, is I wanted to show what happened when the host, and I'm sorry, I don't know the host now, I think she's one of the new breakfast hosts, pushed back a bit and basically said to Mr. Luxon what we were saying. She says at some point, but what if they don't live in the same area as they go to school? And he kind of, oh, no. And then at another point, he kind of snaps at her. I wanted to mention it, show it, and then we'll wrap up for the night.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon slammed communication on the widespread flooding as shambolic, including a delayed state of emergency declaration and the closure of schools. So for more on what he thinks should have been done better and to address a drop in the polls, he joins us now. Morena, Mr. Luxon.
Morning, Anna. Good to be with you.
So you've been out and about the last few days. You must have seen a few sites, but you were just saying in the ad break there, it's really patchy across the city.
Well, I think the thing you're really struck with is you're seeing New Zealanders at our absolute best, and you're seeing people stand up community hubs. And they're often, you know, the local school principal who's opened up the school. It's really outstanding churches that have stepped into the void. Well, there's been some really good work from local board members, you know, in local areas as well. And so, yeah, I've been, you know, in Mangere, I've been in Sunnynook, I've been in Browns Bay, I've been in all over the place.
You sound like you've been going quite a long way in this state of emergency.
Well, it's just been incredible. I mean, I was with a team in Sunnynook that the local board there organised a community group. And all these strangers descend on the community centre. We go out with each other in each other's cars, not knowing anyone, and you know, went to a house where a family had been on holiday in Australia, come home, and everything was ruined in their lower level. So we're taking carpet out, moving furniture into the garage, just airing the house out. And you know, when you think 7 or 8 people come together who didn't know each other and were complete strangers to the people they were helping, that is just New Zealand at its absolute best. And so, you know, there's a lot that we should take great, you know, pride about how we respond as people to our fellow Kiwis. The other challenge is obviously there's a good learning experience here to say, well, how do we put alongside it better emergency management? And, you know, I know you know as well, but, you know, having lived in the States for a long time, you know, you get really good advance notice of a state of emergency coming. You know, the evacuation centres.
You're told to hunker down. This is going to be the worst thing.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a bit, feels like it's a bit over the top at the moment when you're looking out and it's blue skies, but there is a real, you know, I observed even over the time I was in the States how they got better and better post-Hurricane Katrina, dealing with these kinds of issues. And so knowing that there's 20 locations you go to in Auckland that we know are safe and not going to get flooded, that there should be stretchers on site and supplies on site so that, that we can unpack and get ready to go. And I think if we can lift our game just in the processes and the emergency management side of it, coupled with that great Kiwi spirit and community response, we can manage these things really well in the future.
You've also talked a bit about the schools closure announcement, but you've been to schools this week and you got into the studio this morning in some presumably pretty hectic weather. We've seen a lot of surface flooding in a number of areas out and about in Auckland. Do you still think schools shouldn't be
I guess the point we're trying to make is, look, rather than just a blanket ban for a week, which is what happened, which was what was decided to do. Yesterday was a great day for kids to be at school in Auckland. Many schools across Auckland, frankly, could have opened yesterday. There are some areas of Auckland that have been absolutely hammered.
But
it makes no sense to do that.
necessarily go to school in the same area.
No, I get it. But what I'm saying is, look, the local principals who are plugged into those local community hubs, getting all the information about road closures and what the infrastructure looks like in their community, are really well placed to communicate with their community.
So you think what he just said then, the principals now have to spend all that time finding out the road closures, finding out where every single one of their students and staff work, where all the workers, but the principal now has to do all of that, and then the principal has to make a call. And what happens if it's a 50-50? So Mr. Luxon wants to lumber this onto the principal. And then what happens if a principal gets it wrong? Who gets held accountable for that as well?
Yeah.
So that's what Mr. Luxon thinks is a better response. And remember, I'm actually being a bit facetious when I say that, because really what he's saying is Labor bad, Labor bad, Labor bad. That's pretty much what he's trying to say.
You can have one channel of information saying this is the same thing for everyone. Really easy to get that message out. But imagine that being communicated out to all the different people. Like, we're talking about the start of the year as well.
Yeah.
It's not like you're sacrificing exam time. It's orientation week, essentially.
Yes. No, I had a 16-year-old go to school today, and it was basically a half-day leadership day. The school starts officially tomorrow for her and for my 13-year-old, and it's a day of as you're saying, it is an orientation day. Then they don't go on Friday and they're back on Tuesday. Now that's just a particular school, but that's how it works here. Let's play a bit more of this.
But that's the problem if a kid is coming from an area like Pakuranga where they look out and it's sunny and they go to school in Parnell, and to get there they've got to go over those roads that have flooding.
Yep, and so that's perfectly reasonable. But what I'm saying is, we've got a challenge.
How do you know if you're the principal? We'll just leave that answer, shall we, Mr. Luxon? We'll just leave that, and we'll keep going with our tropey talking points.
Think about it. What's going to happen tomorrow and the day after. They could well be days where actually it makes sense for kids to be in school.
But the ministry did say yesterday they're going to make that announcement hopefully by midday each day.
Yep. So that's what I wanted to see, is what I'd make a daily call, and I'd make it increasingly anchored around the local principal.
So I'd make a daily call. They are making a daily call. I'd anchor it around the principal. So now every principal in Auckland has to be involved with all of those lines of communication that you're talking about. And this is what Mr. Luxon is trying to sell as what he thinks is the better idea. Really, it's not what he thinks is the better idea. What he thinks is Labor bad. And he's trying to find a way to make it seem like Labor's doing something wrong. And he sounds like a moron.
There's another issue he's done that on today as well.
Which is?
The half price bus fares and the fuel tax were supposed to the half price fares were supposed to stop and the fuel tax was supposed to go back on. Now that's been put off until June, and he's had to transition from it is unacceptable that Kiwis are going to have to pay more at the pump, and now he's had to transition to it's irresponsible that they've done this. It's fantastic.
It's almost like you can see his petticoat. I think this is the bit where he pushes back a bit, and just watch. She says something about wouldn't go to school, and he goes, well, yeah, you wouldn't go. And then he just keeps on talking. It's not a lot, but it's like, how good are you as a leader or a communicator as if you can't take this. This is not a softball conversation, but it's certainly not a hardcore one either. It's somewhere in between.
principals to be the leaders to make that assessment of whether their school is good enough to open or not, and then they can communicate with their community really well. That's all I was making the comment about yesterday, and just saying, look, the reality is there are large parts of Auckland that have been unaffected, and there are many schools that could have been opened yesterday, and the point is just, look, we've gone through an Auckland lockdown. Our kids are well behind educationally. We've got a big amount of catch up to do this year to get our kids.
I think the host here
just a blanket ban saying
something
school
as well
shut for the full week. When I think those decisions can be devolved to good principles.
So the question that I'd like to ask Mr. Luxon for this, when he talks about everyone being so far behind, is I'd like to use that question that we use a lot. What is your metric for this, Mr. Luxon? Has there been any information released that shows that our students are so far behind? I haven't read it or seen it. Maybe there is, but when he comes out with this, basically saying, this is what he's saying, right? He's saying because of what the government did last year, our children have suffered educationally. Because of what Labour's done or the government's done this week, they're going to continue to suffer education. Is that true? I haven't read anywhere that, for example, our NCEA scores are all lower than they should be. So what I'd like to know when he makes this claim is, what is your metric for that, Mr. Luxon? What is the moment where, how do you know that they're so far behind? And it doesn't get asked, and that's fine, but that's something that I'd like to see us be able to push into a little bit.
Who know the community hubs really well.
But I was a commuter kid, and 2 big sections of Auckland's motorway have closed this
So you wouldn't have gone to school. Got it. But for the, let's just say, there were parts of when I think those decisions can be devolved to good principals who know the community hubs really well.
But I was a commuter kid, and 2 big sections of Auckland's motorway have closed this.
So you wouldn't have gone to school. Got it. But for the, let's just say, there were parts of Auckland yesterday where kids could have been at school. Yeah, it kind of does.
We're in a state of emergency.
No, I get that. But the question for me is just, look, we've gone through a period of time where our kids have missed a tremendous amount of school.
So here's the talking
it's
point.
Really obvious
it's twice in
we
2
haven't got
minutes.
our kids back in regular school attendance. We have really got major challenges around academic achievement with our kids. They're falling really far behind and slipping.
Metric.
And so 2023 is the year we've really got to go to work on education and making sure our kids are set up and doing really well. And all I'm just saying is, look, I think their principals are really well placed to make an assessment of the conditions of their school.
All right. I think that when you say that the principal's in a really good place to make conditions for their school, that might be true. The borders of their school. That's not necessarily what the principals will then need to know whether it's okay to open or close. So, but Chewy, that's the first time you've maybe seen that. What do you think of that snapback? I know it's not a massive one, but like, yeah, got it. Yep, sure. So you wouldn't have gone to school. Sure. Yep, got it. You wouldn't have gone to school.
Yeah, I haven't seen that from Luxon before. I wonder if he got a little bit annoyed that she was.
Well, that's what it seemed like.
His flow.
It seemed like she put her pushback, as mild as it was. She was just going, my experience. Like I grew up in an area of Auckland called Hillsborough, and I used to go to. I think I said this before. I used to go to school in an area, Glen Innes, and that's kind of from the centre west to the east. So I went right across the city. So that was me as well. I wouldn't have probably been able to make it, but just the way he was like, yep, got it. I just wonder,
he was calling for schools to go back today, and I saw footage this morning of a Auckland transport bus going through floodwaters up to its bloody windows.
Today, really?
Yeah, this morning.
And that wasn't one from during the actual rain.
No. This was this morning.
Wow.
It was on stuff. They called the bus driver a lunatic or something like that. But yeah, he was just charging through floodwaters. But I mean, they had another big dumping of rain last night.
Right.
It's like, why are you making a political gamble on the weather? Like it hadn't finished yet. Like no one was asking for this.
It's one of those things where Carl says some real Wayne Brown energy there. It's one of those things where if they had have defaulted to the principals, so there's 2 options, right? If you default to the principals and the principals get it wrong, that's a massive issue. And if principals get it right, then life seems okay. So then you got to start to look at that and go, so if the principals are wrong and then you've got stranded kids, is that worse than if the government's wrong and the kids could have gone to school? See, for me, I kind of go, if the principals get it wrong and there's stranded kids, that seems a more serious, worse outcome than if the government's wrong and that particular school could have been opened. So all schools closed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the decision-making process. Like, yeah, it's bizarre. It really is contrarianism for the sake of contrarianism.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. It's any chance to say Labour bad. I've even seen a right-wing commentator in the last 24 hours talking about the flooding at Auckland Airport and thanking Jacinda for the third world country she's left us.
Oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, I know. So it's any reason, yeah, it's any reason. Hey, let's go through some of these text messages or these messages that you've been starring on the way through. Do you want to rip through a few?
There's so many. I'm going to start with Rex because it's particularly good. We're always talking about Remuera tractors. They're made to get these kids through the floods to the private schools.
True.
Yes, there's a purpose. So there, I've put up a lot of comments from obviously the MrBeast stuff. Chat was firing full force at that point. Finsarg says, ask any of those 1,000 people if they feel exploited. I think that's a good point. John T here says he goes through so much effort not to show kids and the disadvantaged in his videos. Ava brought up the Fred Hollows Foundation. Obviously not doing it for clicks because clicks didn't exist then.
Just pause for a second on that. So if people are really unhappy with what MrBeast has done, what that kind of says to me is any publicity about altruism is bad. Because what publicity does is brings attention to an issue, raises money for that issue, and potentially for those who are showing it.
Well, maybe that's the key, right? What's it drawing attention to? MrBeast or the systemic problem in the US healthcare system?
Yeah, well, I think that he's shown them up amazingly. Some of the commentators from America that I saw today was like saying this is actually the biggest thing that MrBeast has done is showing that these so many people, half of the blind people in the world, can see again with a 10-minute operation. And I think
I haven't really been following this, but was that his aim?
Oh, I don't know. Who knows?
Did he know that was an issue going in? Because I think that changes it a little bit.
I've got no idea.
This operation costs around $25, I think.
That's the Fred Hollows one, yeah.
Yeah, unless you're in the USA, in which case it probably costs 16 grand. You have to sell your house or something. Disaster Piece says, I'm not sure how they think he finances the good deeds without creating content from them to finance more.
That's the thing.
Definitely, I guess, his business model.
So if we could choose that he has content which enables him to do these good deeds, or he has no content and no good deeds, what people are saying is, please, no good deeds. Because when people are saying, use your money, but don't publicize it, he gets his money from publicizing it. That's how it works on YouTube. So, I'm people shouldn't respond to me by saying, well, no, neither. It's like this is a binary situation. He either makes content, makes money off it, does good deeds, or he doesn't make content, doesn't make any money off it, doesn't do good deeds. They're your only two options in the situation. I would rather have the former that included doing good deeds than the latter. That's where I would sit.
Simple Reality here says MrBeast is popular with young kids on YouTube. To me, he's showing young people that it's good to help others.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't have a big ego, so good on him. Ava here says, I don't hate him, but he sure does have a really capitalistic take on philanthropy. Brand partnerships where he gives away their products and then they get millions of views for their outlay, especially, America, very capitalistic.
Look, I think I agree with Ava, but then I would ask that question again. If he's using the capitalistic system to then do good work, isn't that better than just someone else using the capitalist system just to purely enrich themselves? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I get it. I'm not saying this is a perfect system. There's flaws in the system, but it seems like people out there are saying that, not that Ava's saying this, but if only it could be done without capitalism, but the capitalism gives them the money to do the good work. The big brands that give him money enable him to do the work. It's kind of goes hand in hand. Now, what I agree with is there's a horrible need for this. I mean, like the other YouTuber we played, like the necessity to have altruism being a way that these people can get their operations, what that speaks of in the capitalistic system is revolting. I agree. But I also know that's the system. So we can pontificate about it and go, this shouldn't be happening. And I would be on that bandwagon with you, but I'm not then going to go, so MrBeast shouldn't then do it.
You can't get away from the fact that good has happened.
Yeah, him doing it is getting people, giving people their sight back. Us pontificating about why he shouldn't do it does nothing for anyone. I'm a bit of a, sorry, I think that I'm a bit of a pragmatist in this. Like, I understand it feels a bit dirty and a bit gross perhaps, but the end result is still 1,000 people seeing again.
And you know what would be ideal though, right? Is the healthcare system had its shit together enough that he could not do this sort of content because there wasn't any.
Agreed.
You know?
100%. I'm on board.
Rob Burney points out that curing something that some people think is good and some people think is bad is literally the plot of X-Men Last Stand.
Now that's plagiarism. So MrBeast is now being accused of plagiarism as well.
So there is a missed opportunity. Imagine if MrBeast mentioned specific charities which viewers could donate to, and
he does.
Fallout. He has done that. Okay, cool.
Well, but also he has his own charities. Like I said, there's 4 food banks that he runs in his region, and that does happen. I don't know if it actually happened. In fact, one of the things about this, I think there might have been links in the story about it, but maybe there is. I'll have a look. Like at the bottom of his video, does it have links? Oh yeah, there you go. seeinternational.org. It's the first thing here. I'll give you the screen. Look right there, the very first thing in the bio. If you'd like to support more of the site restoring work, visit this. And this has had 70 million views. So this charity has had 70 million adverts. And there's a link to how you can join them. So I don't think the charity will be complaining either. It's just the fucking keyboard warriors and the virtue signalers that are going, oh, money, don't like money. But money's what's making this work for these people and giving them their site back. Yeah. Anyway, I'm imagining everyone's going to start turning off who disagrees with me, so I'll stop doing this.
And Jonty comes in at the end with a comment about the schools. How productive is that school going to be anyway? Half its staff can't get into work and teach the children. I can't believe that the kids have had a good bloody week of it. So yeah, I just stupid from Luxon, just stupid. A couple of days out of school is not going to hurt these kids.
Yeah.
And they've gone through worse with the pandemic.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. Now, just finally, because I got on my horse again. I'm sorry about that. The whole MrBeast conversation feels like a part of the plot of The Good Place, and the point totals of good or bad. We out into the world.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do like that.
Okay, now reminder, if you're just joining us now, if you're watching us on demand, you'll have heard us say this already, but no show tomorrow night. Both Chewy and I have family time, not with each other, but with our significant others. My partner's having a birthday, so I'm taking her out for dinner, and Chewy has got a partner going away for a while, so
she's going to Melbourne.
No, lucky. Hello.
She goes over every now and then. I tell her not to waste her time because it's Australia. It's just like here, but worse. But she's got family there, so
you can't say just like here, but with snakes anymore, can you? Because more and more of them are turning up to our shores.
What actual snakes?
Yeah,
we talk about Luxon again.
No, true. So we're going to no show tomorrow night. It's family time, so we would encourage all of you at 9 p.m. tomorrow night to spend some time with your family or your significant other or your favorite Netflix show, whatever you want to do.
Instead of yelling at YouTube with us.
Instead of listening to me yell at YouTube. And we will be definitely back on Monday. There is a small chance we may be back on Friday, but we haven't talked about that, so we're not sure yet. But that's us for now. Is there anything else you want to wrap up with, Chewy? Oh, actually, Monday's public.
Oh, Monday is a public holiday, yes. Because
and you might be over here.
Barbecue at your house.
Yeah, Waitangi Day barbecue Monday night. So actually, maybe we will try and come back on Friday night, Chewy, because then we went back till Tuesday anyway. So we'll figure this out. Don't panic. We're not going to leave you starving, baby birds. But we definitely will not be here tomorrow night. Follow us both on Twitter if you want to find out when we're going to be next on. Worst case scenario, it's going to be Tuesday after the public holiday. If we don't see you before, have a fantastic Waitangi Day. Do something to celebrate Waitangi Day. I used to do this a lot when I was living in Auckland. I always tried to have a Waitangi Day barbecue, whether it was with 2 people or 200 people. We had one at our house once that had about 400 people at it. We had our Waitangi Day hangi at our house. That was amazing. But this weekend it's a barbecue with 20 people or so, because I always think that it is New Zealand's National Day, and I know for most of you people out there you're on board with it, but for people who don't like my it's New Zealand's National Day no matter what. There's no other one to pick from. This is it. So you might as well do something to celebrate it, to acknowledge the country on the country's birthday, and we should all do something small.
Some people may choose to commemorate it by sitting at their kitchen table, crossing out Aotearoa off their money. But those are sad people, and they'll be doing that alone.
All right. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We will see you Friday or Tuesday or some stage again.
We'll let you know.
At 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. I'm going to go and take a Valium now after that MrBeast conversation. And we'll catch you all super soon. Be safe over the weekend. Enjoy Waitangi Day if we don't see you beforehand. And until next time, hooroo!
Cheers.